Okay, this is for workbook page 136. So for the first part, they are giving them a technique to be able to more easily divide some numbers. So the first one that you have for number 14 is A which is 64 divided by 5. So we're going to go ahead and write that as a fraction. Fraction is a division problem. A division problem is a fraction. Now what we're going to do to make this easier is, rather than dividing by 5, we're going to divide by 10. So that means we're going to multiply 5 times 2 to get 10. So we multiply 64 times 2 to get 128. So now we have 128 over 10. So now to divide by 10 for this right here, all we have to do is cross out a 0. And if we divide this by 10, we have to divide the numerator by 10. We do that by moving the decimal point over one place and getting 12.8. So our answer is going to be 12.8. So as long as we multiply both the numerator and denominator by the same thing, which in this case for these problems is going to be 2, we're going to end up with an easier problem, because all we're going to need to do when we divide by 10 is move the decimal point one place. So right now we'll go ahead and do 14D. 14D is 12.1 divided by 50. So we'll take 12.1 over 50. And once again, we'll multiply both of these by 2. And we'll end up getting 100 here. And this would be 24 and 2/10. Now, to divide by 100, we're going to cancel the 2 zeros here. That's how we divide by 100. And to divide by 100 here, we're going to take this decimal point and we're going to move it 2 places to the left over here to make it smaller. So our answer is going to be 0.242. So 242 thousandths. So our goal, once again, is to make this number right here into an easier number to work with. Okay, now for the next one, 15, we're given this example and we're supposed to see the pattern. We can see all of these have the same digits, 1, 2, 2, 3. The first one has a decimal point here. The next one has a decimal point here. The third one has a decimal point here. And the last one has a decimal point here. So we can see we're simply moving the decimal point one space each time. So then, to find our next one, we would just copy this number here, 0.1223, and we would move our decimal point one place to the left, and our answer would then be 0.01223. So that's going to be our first one. And now, to do the next one, we would move this one place more to the left. So we would have 0.001223, and we would have our final answer. Okay, now if we look at the next ones, just to give you an idea of what you're going to look at, for the first one, on B, for 15, they have 8.1, 2.7, 0.9, and 0.3. So, for these, if we just take a look at them without the decimal points, we get 81, 27, 9, and 3. and from there we're likely to come up with being able to see a pattern to change each time. Okay. For C, the pattern's a little bit more complicated. So we have 488, 24 and 4/10, 1 and 22 hundredths, and 61 thousandths. So for here, for this one, if we just take a look at the first couple numbers, we can see we have a 48, a 24, a 12, and a 6. So now we can see a pattern for doing something each time. But this one actually has a dual pattern, but besides the actual division going on, you can see they're moving the decimal point one place each time to the left. So we're dividing by a different number. So you can try to figure out what they're dividing by and then try to move a decimal point. For 16, they're giving us 32.4 divided by 800, and once again, we're trying to make it simpler. So let's go ahead and write 32 and 4/10 over 800. And the easier way to do this problem would be just to have an 8 on the bottom. In order to get an 8 on the bottom, I would have to divide by 100. And whatever we do to one, we do to the other. So when I divide by 100 here, I'm just going to cross out the zeros and get my 8. When I divide by 100 here, I'm going to move my decimal point two places to the left to make it smaller. So I'm going to have 0.324. Okay? So 324 thousandths divided by 8. Now I have a much easier problem to work with. Put my decimal point once again just goes up. So we have 8 goes in there 0 times, 8 will not go into 3. The first thing it's going to go into is 32, which is 4 times. Multiply, we get 32, subtract 0, now we bring down the 4. 8 goes into 4 0 times. We still go through the process, and then we're going to go ahead and add a 0, bring down that 0, and 8 goes into 45 times. So our answer is 405 10,000ths. So our goal, once again, was to be able to take this 800, make it into just an 8, and we do it by dividing both of them by 100. So for our next one, we have 32 and 4/10 divided by 8,000. So I'm going to write it again as a fraction. We're going to want to make this into just an 8 to make it simpler. So we do that by dividing by 1,000. To divide this by 1,000 on the bottom, we're going to take off the 3 zeros. To divide the numerator by 1,000, we're going to move our decimal point 3 places because 1,000 has 3 zeros. We're going to go ahead and put a 0 here and our new decimal point. So we have 0.0324. So now we're going to go ahead and divide. So 0.0324 divided by 8. Decimal point simply goes up. So 8 goes in there 0 times, 8 will go in there 0 times, 8 will go in there 0 times, and then 8 goes into 32 4 times, which is 32, and 0, bring down the 4, 8 goes into 4 0 times, which is 0 and 4, and then we can add extra trailing zeros, and 8 goes into 40 5 times. So we get out with a 0 here, and so we have 405 10 thousandths. So if we look at that, we can see the 405 is going to be the same as what we had here. So we're still going to have the same numbers, but our decimal point is going to be in a different spot. For C, once again, we're going to go ahead and attempt to change this so it's just an 8, because an 8 is easier to divide by than 80. We divide by 10, and we divide by 10 here, we move our decimal point one place. So 324 thousandths divided by 8. So we're going to have our decimal point, and then we'll go into that 0 times. It goes into 32 4 times. So we're going to see our pattern here again. Go in a 0, which would be 4, add a trailing 0 to the end, and 8 goes into 45 times. So 0.045. Now, when you take a look at the problems, next problem, D is going to be divided by 8 for E, F, G, and H. You're going to try to make each of those into a 12 by dividing by 10 or 100. For I and J, you have 700 and 7,000. You're going to take each of those and divide them down to just to get a 7. Remember, whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. And on K and L, you're going to divide by 100, because you have two 500s. So you have on K 10 and 50 hundredths divided by 500. So divide by 100, and so you divide this by 100, so your new decimal point is there. So 0.105 divided by 5. Okay? So when we do this, we basically are doing a problem of 105 divided by 5. Just put a decimal point in there, and it goes in 2 times, which would be 10, and once, and then of course this right here is over a number, we have to have the zeros over there. Okay, when you get to 17, for 17, you have the problem 30 minus 15 times 2 tenths plus 7 and 8 tenths. We follow order of operations, which tells us we have to do this multiplying first. So we have to do 15 times 2 tenths. So in order to do that, we're going to do 15 times 0.2. So we can see, first of all, 15 times 2 is 30, and we have one place above, so we need one place below. And the decimal point always goes at the end after the ones place, and we're going to move it the same number of places, and we get 3.0, which is the same as 3. So this right here will become a 3. Everything else will just come down. And then we work in order, since it's adding and subtracting left to right. So first of all, we have to do the 30 minus the 3. So once again, we don't add and then subtract first. We add or subtract whichever comes first. So 30 minus 3 gives us 27. Then we bring down the 7.8. And then we're going to go ahead and add. And when we add, once again, the decimal point goes at the end after the ones. And when we add, this is combining like terms. You can always add a trailing 0. And then we get 8, 14, and 3. So 34 and 8 tenths. So we just have to follow order of operations.